Send this out. Okay, it is recording. So again, welcome. Glad you guys are here on the call with Amy Coddington and I. I think most of you either know Amy or maybe know her name at least, know that she's part of the supportive mobilization team. And Amy has really worked just very hard on this whole project to get it going, working with the Compassion Sunday team, the sponsor and donor relations team who handles the whole Compassion Sunday campaign. So she's done a lot to work with them. And she's the one, if you all are familiar with the action team, Compassion Action Team, and resource team, they were people, a lot of folks who had been coaches before under when we offered coaching to other advocates. And so she's doing with that team. So just doing a lot of just great work over the years. And now you guys are stepping into like a Compassion Sunday coaching role, different than the coaching before, more of a on the sidelines kind of as a coach in a game, like giving specific advice versus just listening and trying to draw out from them what they want to do, but really giving advice for people who are saying, I really don't know what to do. And I need some help. I need some suggestions or advice. So that's what this is kind of the heart behind it. So I'm going to let Amy start up. I'm going to get my screen share going so you can see the document that we'll kind of talk through. But as we dive into that, let me just open us up in a word of prayer first. Lord God, thank you for this day that you've given us. And thank you for this ministry that you've called us to. And I thank you for all the ways that we've seen victories through the things that we've done or been able to do in this. And I pray that you would give us the ability to remain steadfast in the face of things that might seem to go wrong or seem to not have the results we want to see. There was ups and downs in this in this ministry, and we just know, looking back at history, that this is definitely on a long march towards more and more greatness and good as we see more and more children sponsored around the world. And I just thank you for each of these folks stepping up to be a part of that. I pray that you would give all of us excitement and joy in what we're doing as we reach out to these folks who are hoping and wanting to do a Compassion Sunday. We lift this up in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Amy, I'm going to get my screen up going with the document, but I'll turn it over to you for this initial part.
Great. Well, thanks, everybody. I recognize a lot of your names, but I don't know many of you. I live in Golden, Colorado, which is just West Denver. So I work remotely from my home like Doug, but I am close to the Compassion headquarters, about an hour north. Sorry, got a little tickle in my throat. I've been with Compassion about 9 years and have had basically the same job in that time. But in the last year and a half, I've had a little bit of a different change. But one of those changes is giving extra attention to Compassion Sunday. And when I learned from Doug about you all developing the Compassion Sunday coaching role, it was a critical piece. In fact, I didn't share this with the last call last week, but I was on a phone call with folks at Compassion's headquarters who are already brainstorming Compassion Sunday 2018. And they already are talking about all these ways they want to utilize you, Compassion Sunday coaches. So they know about you, they know what you're doing, and I guess if it's helpful to say, there's a lot of segments within Compassion who don't have touch points with volunteers like we do, like Doug and I do. So they look at you as like such a critical piece of bringing success to this mission. So, I know Doug has expressed his gratitude, and I express it as well. So kind of my job is to report back to a bigger team about what we're doing. So Doug has this particular focus on you all as coaches, and then I'm kind of tying more, tying more pieces together in that. So we have, just to clarify, we have you making calls, but we also have another set of people making calls, and those are folks who are volunteering at Compassion's headquarters. They are calling people who have established and registered a Compassion Sunday, and they're calling to say, good job, we're cheering you on, we're praying for you, and just touching base as a point of contact encouragement. Your calls are a little different, and I think in many ways have a very strong strategic approach. So here we go. If you look at the screen, who are you calling? The supporters you are calling have ordered a Compassion Sunday planning folder on their own accord. So they took initiative and they took this step that indicates they have some level of hosting a Compassion Sunday. Okay? And in fact, Doug, I remember in the last call, I started with the interesting statistics. So if you could kind of scroll up a little bit, let's start there. 25,000 Compassion supporters are mailed a Compassion Sunday planning guide from Compassion. Compassion takes the initiative to engage these supporters who have shown a strong level of commitment in the past. Okay? We are not calling these people because, one, they didn't ask for the guide, but they have shown an interest in general. So they're getting a Compassion Sunday planning folder. Now, 8,000 additional Compassion supporters request a planning guide, and this is on their own initiative. And these are the people we will reach out to. So hold on for a minute. So when we add the 25,000 to the 8,000, we get 33,000 total who received a planning guide. At the end of the day, 2,500 Compassion supporters actually carry out a Compassion Sunday. So in other words, that's 7.5% of all who receive a planning guide actually host a Compassion Sunday. Now, I don't know about you, but when I first heard those numbers, I was like, wow, only 2,500 hold a Compassion Sunday? And, but if you think about the number of people getting the folder, a 7.5% what we call conversion rate is actually pretty good and pretty above average. However, we still want more people to be hosting a Compassion Sunday. So what I would love for you to think about is, what if we could increase that percentage to 8% or 10% or 12% of those 33,000? Now, those numbers, mind you, are from last year. So they're, we don't know how many this year exactly will order planning guides, but I think it's good to assess that about 8,000 families will order the guides. So through prayer and with your help, I believe we can increase those who follow through. And by doing so, we can help release even more children from poverty. So even if it's just 200 more, we can just imagine the impact they could have in one church. So let's scroll back up here to the top. And so you are calling anyone, and let's who you are calling. By the time you receive a list of supporters to call, it will have been 6 weeks or more since they ordered their Compassion Sunday planning guide. Now, why are you calling them? It's because they have not yet registered a Compassion Sunday. And we want to offer any help or insight to help them take that leap and register a Compassion Sunday. So let me just cut to the quick. As you can see from last year's statistics, many people order the guide but don't follow through. And in marketing terms, we would call these warm leads, people who have already taken a step to indicate to us, hey, I might be interested in hosting a Compassion Sunday and learning more about this. And but if they haven't taken action within 6 weeks, it's kind of safe in the marketing world to say, hey, we can make another touch point of encouragement. And what we've found is that many times people have a lot of different reasons why they haven't scheduled one yet, and a call from you could help them follow through. So in fact, we have some scenarios to consider as to why someone has not followed through on registering a Compassion Sunday. So this, maybe you personally have had this experience, is that a pastor declined the request to have a Compassion Sunday, or the person is anxious about approaching their pastor. Maybe it's a big church, or maybe the person just feels uncomfortable about doing that. Sometimes busyness gets in the way, and maybe a call from you can help remind them, oh yeah, I need to do that. maybe they're not sure how to proceed forward. Maybe they haven't read the materials or checked out the CompassionSunday.com website. They may be confused. They may just be scared of failing. They could be discouraged for a number of reasons, or maybe they're waiting. Maybe this idea of having a Compassion Sunday in May is too soon, and they just need more time. Or maybe someone else already planned the Compassion Sunday in their church, and they weren't aware, and they ordered the planning guide without knowing that. So many, many other reasons. So I just covered a lot. I want to just pause for a minute and see if you have any questions about who you're calling or why you're calling them. And then I am, by the way, in just a moment, I will cover kind of a suggested script of what to say. So any questions about what I've already covered?
Yeah, and I've got most, I think everybody's on mute. So you think you can either click unmute, to get off that, or use the chat feature. And Amy, if you watch the chat box for that.
Any questions? Sound pretty clear? Okay. So just to clarify, from last week, people were wanted to know where that 8,000 number came from. And I realized I hadn't made that clear last time. So just to confirm, that's what happened in 2016. That's a assessment of what happened last year. So right now we don't have that we don't have that number of people coming in yet. And just to also clarify that we do have people calling those who did register to encourage and let them know we're cheering them on, make sure their order is correct, that type of thing. So those calls are happening as well. Okay.
Yeah, and Amy, one of the questions is, has there been any additional like emails? Do you know, since their initial, since they've ordered the planning guide, in those 6 weeks, have there already been email communications going to them that prompt them to kind of get their Compassion Sunday lined up? Or do we know what the schedule is there?
Okay. What I think happens is that after 6 weeks, I do not, once they order a guide, I don't think they're getting any other touches from Compassion, but they are getting, any supporter is getting touches up until 6 weeks after the initial push, which would have been early February. So that's why we're starting our calls now, is that people, they're not getting too many voices speaking in, because we do want to be sensitive to that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Diana, thank you for pointing this out. Diana received a guide and has been getting emails fairly regularly telling her, kind of time's running out. And so, it's Compassion, there's a lot of different segments that people, like you mentioned, there's people who we send this out to proactively, just because we think these are people who are really engaged, and other people who ordered this on their own, and other people that just because they did it last year, we're going to send them one automatically. And so there's all these different groups that Compassion looks at. So, and each segment might be handled a little bit, but it sounds like it's looking like once somebody does order that planning guide, it looks like there are some email communications going out as reminders. So
but this,
let's double check with Matt on that.
Yeah, we can double check, but just to clarify, Diana and James and Julie, all of you are getting the guide without initiating. Is that correct? So, okay, yes from Julie, yes from Diana. Correct. Okay. So I think how they're marketing to those who initiate themselves, who were not in your group, that marketing approach will be different. And you're right. Let me double check, Doug, with Matt to find out once they order, what are those touch points. But what he did tell me is the 6 week mark is safe to make an extra touch. So any of the lists you are getting that you will receive from Doug with a name and a phone number to call, these people have ended. They will not be getting any more touch points about Compassion Sunday from Compassion. So I think that's important for you to know. And as far as those of you who got them on your own, and I did get one, and I guess I haven't noticed an email as of late, but we're not giving them to you. We're not giving you the names prematurely. And in fact, Doug, I think this would be an appropriate time to maybe share about a couple of the folks in the call last week who had some experiences. Do you want to share about those?
Yeah. Are you talking like the questions that came up
or
that people had, or
maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Let me go through and talk through their role as a Compassion Sunday coach, and then we can tell you the experience people have had. I think you'll be encouraged. Okay. So let me prepare you that the majority of people you'll call, you probably leave a voicemail. Now, Janice Cheshire, she reached actually a lot of people live, and I'll let Doug tell you more about her experience. But the typical experience will be that you will call someone and get their voicemail. So I think the shorter the message, the better, to leave your name and let them know you're a fellow Compassion supporter. I think this is really important. You're not a staff person, and I think people listen differently to you as kind of one of them. And we can go on to say, we understand you recently ordered a Compassion Sunday planning guide. I'm checking in to see how your plans are coming along in scheduling a Compassion Sunday at your church, and to see how I can encourage you or answer any questions you may have. Now, that's basic. Put it in your own words. This is just a suggestion. And so if you do get a person live, it's just a matter of listening well and asking good open-ended questions, because then you can know what to tell them. So remember, the people haven't asked us to call them. And so as you ask good questions, they may open up, and you may find out that what's holding them back is a very simple solution. So first of all, I recommend that you familiarize yourself with the CompassionSunday.com website. In fact, if you didn't know, something new this year is you can get a script written out. I was with a supporter recently here in Colorado, and she was able to they gave her fill in some information, write a short paragraph, and then they had the rest of it for her. She printed it out and she read it in front of church in a very conversational way. So people may not know they have a script ready for you on the website. Know what is in the Compassion Sunday planning guide, and that's also listed on the website. Pray before each call, or if you feel comfortable or the person does, pray with them on the phone. And number 4, know that when a person registers for a Compassion Sunday, Compassion determines the number of packets they will receive. So they don't have to figure all that out. They just have to know the size of their church audience. And then number 5, if they're interested, you can offer ideas to simplify their Compassion Sunday. So, some people may think, gosh, I've got to go. The pastor has to preach on poverty. They've got to show a video. I've got to give a testimony. We have to have a table. And then the pastor's like, we're not interested. So the idea is, how can you cut back, scale back? So letter A, for example, could they just have a table in the lobby and show the video? Or what if this would be really hitting the ball out of the park, have a formally sponsored child or what we call a Compassion alumni to speak? Or if the leadership says no, maybe they're interested if we put a focus on a particular country. Or maybe you find a friend at the church who can help you and you have the support. Or you present during a youth group or a Sunday school class and not at the main worship service. These are things I think you guys are very familiar with. I feel like I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but I'm just putting it on paper, because sometimes you get on these calls and your mind could go blank. But here's the end result we're praying for: that people would be encouraged and then take action to move forward and register a Compassion Sunday. So in order that more people in churches would learn about Compassion's mission in the world and help release children from poverty. So, we've never done this approach before. And what we're trying to assess this year is, do the calls you as coaches make increase the number of people that have a Compassion Sunday by giving them a person that they could talk to ask questions about. Now, we don't ask you to make more than one phone call. If you're comfortable and want to leave a phone number or an email to call you back, that's up to you. At this point, we don't have the email addresses of these individuals, but we're working to get those email addresses because you could follow up with an email. So stay tuned on that. We had one situation last week where one of your fellow coaches had, I think the child of the person he was calling hung up on him. And so he said, wow, I want to call back, but it'd be helpful if I had an email. And then Doug was able to get that email address for that person. So, sometimes you don't know who's going to answer the phone. But anyway, there you have it. What questions come up in regard to what to say or how to go about making the call?
We'll open up to some questions, and I'm going to go into some logistics on how this will work in terms of receiving the lists and things like that. And feel free to just either use the chat or just click off the mute button, which I think you'll be able to do. Okay. All right, we'll keep an eye on that.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, James, you're asking make only, okay, here we go. Really good questions here. Let's see. Okay, only make one attempt. I don't think that's a hard and fast rule. Doug, I'd like you to weigh in on this. I think it kind of depends on maybe the time of day you call, or I think the biggest thing, we don't want to make these folks feel like they are being, that we come on too strong. So I think up to 2 times maximum, and maybe spread that out over a few days and maybe a different time of day. Good question. Yeah, what do you think, Doug?
I agree. What we don't want to do is you all have gotten the annoying sales calls, and we don't want this to be a hard sell or anything like that. More than anything, the very first thing, the end result we're praying for, the very first part, the people would be encouraged. And I would add to that even that they would feel appreciated. Those are the 2 big things. That's what I want them to walk away from the call. We obviously want them to be moved to action, but not because they feel guilty but really because they feel so appreciated and so supported by Compassion. And so multiple calls might get to that point where they're like, oh my gosh, this person's not leaving me alone or something like that. So I would say 2 at the most, and just make sure that the calls, when you do call, just be over the top, showing appreciation. Hey, we were so grateful for your heart to want to host a Compassion Sunday. We're here to help. That's what I'm calling about. We just want to appreciate you and offer any support, advice, answer questions that you have, so that you can be as effective as possible in what you're trying to do. So just make sure you've got that tone. I think that's the main thing. So it doesn't come across as like a sales call, like we're just going to, bug you until you actually do something. So good.
Okay, James, thanks for your confirming that. Great. Really good questions here. Diana, I'm going to touch on yours in just a minute, but Rick, you ask, is there a better time of day to call than others? I guess I'm not the expert on this. I would use your judgment. I think Doug will be giving you calls that fall a bit more into your time zone, possibly. Is that right? Maybe, maybe not. So I guess the point is, on the list, notice where their time zone is. I always think avoiding the dinner time is good. So either after dinner and not too late. We kind of have a assessment like not after 8:30 p.m. And I would say not before 8:30 in the morning, 9 in the morning. But we just don't know if these people are working or not. And I think at the end of the day, just I think lunchtime and late afternoon, late dinner. I don't know. Doug, do you have some thoughts on that matter?
Yeah, I don't know exactly when Janice made her calls, when she actually got through to a lot and connected with a lot, had a lot of good conversations. But I'm pretty sure it was an evening. They were evening calls. Again, trying to avoid that, kind of dinner, 5:30 to 7 time frame. And then again, not too late. But I'm pretty sure that's when she got through on hers on a number of them. But we also know that you guys have work schedules and family schedules and things like that. So this is also on your time frame as well, of when you actually have availability, and don't want to feel like a burden on you, like I've got to get to these other things, but I have to do the calls. Do it when it's good for you as well.
Yeah. And Diana, you have a really good question. I'm going to let Doug answer this. The question is, so we're not staff, but if they do want to concentrate on a given country, can we offer to facilitate? So
yes. Yeah, I think that's where you guys have that expertise, and you can help a church maximize their event. And so I'll go through on the ordering process. So we'll cover that in a little bit more detail a little bit later. But in the short answer in a nutshell is absolutely yes. So great question. So I haven't seen any others come in. I'll start going into the logistics here, and we'll get to that question in more detail, Dana. Okay, so basically, here are the logistics. I'll receive a new report each Monday, and I'm going to be receiving those through the end of June. The very first one we had 153 contacts on it. Another one that's coming in has just over 200, like 202 on it. And so we think these will be fairly consistent, these kind of larger lists to begin with, and then start declining as that 6 weeks moves, out of February into March and things like that. And basically, this is the information that we have right now. We are trying to, if there's any changes to it, it will just improve. Like we might have an email address added to this. But for the purpose of an example, Rick, don't panic that you're thinking, I haven't made these calls yet. I just put your name in here as an example when I was printing this out. But basically, there's an account name. These are the names of the people who ordered. Here's their phone number. We've got their time zone, their state, and then who the caller is. And that's where if somebody's name is in that list, you shouldn't be making the call. And there's a couple other fields here. I've added Compassion Sunday, yes or no. So if you actually get through and talk to them or have some communication, just fill that in, a quick Y or N to let us know, so that we can actually see, hey, this many, and very quickly we can look and see how many people are actually carried through their Compassion Sunday, which is great. And then the response, any notes on there. If you want to write, hey, I called on this date, I put some examples right down below here. So response, voicemail, no return call, or this one, yes, they're doing a Compassion Sunday. They just needed to nail down a date. Is now set for June 4th, and the order was already placed. That's perfect. No voicemail call return. Pastor will not allow it, but maybe next year. Pastor's he just stepped down, not a good time. So just some very short notes that can help you and help us understand, what these people are facing, any obstacles, as we can learn them. And obviously, if they are having Compassion Sunday. One other field I listed here, actually I pushed response out one more, and I put action needed by Compassion. And so as I'm scrolling back through these and seeing them, if you put a yes there as well, that's going to flag that to me. You can even highlight it in yellow, and it will highlight to me to know, oh, I need to jump on that. For example, we had somebody who was reached and they said, I never received my planning guide. I ordered it, but I never received it. And so that was Bill Mahoney. He said, Doug, we need to send one out to him. So he suggested that, like, hey, if action is needed, let's flag that somehow. What I'm doing with these lists, when they come in, I've created I've just uploaded this spreadsheet onto a Google Docs, and along the bottom of that sheet, and I'll send you the link for it, but what I've been doing is putting each person's name. So each of you would have your own tab along the bottom of that spreadsheet. The very first tab is all the calls that are not yet assigned. And then as they get assigned, I'm dragging them over and putting them in different people's specific tab on the spreadsheet. So you can then go there and just see yours, if that makes sense. When I send the link out, I think you'll be able to find that pretty easy. All right, ordering. If you actually speak to someone who can host a Compassion Sunday event, what happens there? If they're like, yeah, we could do it, we have a date now. A couple things. One, if they haven't already placed their order, then you can check to find out, are they comfortable going back just to the CompassionSunday.com website and actually placing their order? If they are, and you feel based on that conversation that they're really going to follow through with it, great. Just encourage them to say thank you, all that. Another option for if you want to provide really good customer service, and if you're in front of your computer, you can say, well, great, I can help you I can get the order in right now for you. And so you can be on CompassionSunday.com, and you can just have them tell you their information, their address, and you just type it in for them and have it all mailed to them on the time. So that's another thing, just again, to help them out. If that's going to make their life easier, we want to do it. Keep in mind, the Compassion Sunday online order form does not allow for any special requests. So Diana, this gets to your question a little bit. So if they do want child packets from a specific area, they just want child packets from Guatemala or Dominican Republic, or they just want to sponsor girls or orphans or anything like that, then they should not order that through the CompassionSunday.com website. You will need to then get their relevant data and then connect with your relationship manager, Rick or Matt. Send it to me. We'll just make sure that it gets to the right person. But here's the information that we would need. Obviously, the name and the contact of the supporter, the name and the address of the church, the audience size, the date of their event, if they want a Compassion Sunday t-shirt, what size, where and when, I guess, where to send the materials. Either they want it mailed to the church or to the supporter, and then any special instructions that they do have, like, hey, they want child packets just from the Dominican Republic. I added in there, just as curiosity, is this a request from leadership? Like, the pastors really want that, or is this the supporter's own idea? Like, I just think it'd be cool to do that, just curious about that. So that's the key information that we would need to place an order and kind of raise the level of it, because it needs special care. And then we'll have Diana would ultimately be the one placing the order. Once again, the hopes and expectations, to set some expectations. Amy has already alluded to this, but you likely will receive mostly voicemail messages. And I'm just saying, expect few callbacks. It would be great if they did, but we don't want you to think, oh, I'm going to get through and talk with everybody, and everybody's going to be super excited about this and want to talk to me about this. That just probably is not going to be the reality. Our hope is that in addition to people being encouraged and just really feeling appreciated, that we would see some Compassion Sunday events take place. Even if we can see one event lined up for every 50 calls made, we'll consider that a success. And so, right now, I think it's an average of about 8 kids who are sponsored for each Compassion Sunday. So if you think 50 calls can be made in a 60 to 90 minute period of time that's invested, that's another 5 to 8 kids sponsored for an hour and a half. And I think all of us who've been on the field, who were just in El Salvador, if we think, man, 5 or 8 of those kids, if an hour and a half of my time resulted in 5 more kids like that, it puts it in perspective, or it does for me anyway. So just try to keep that in mind. That's what we're hoping to see. Also, let me know if you want to take more calls, or if you're already at capacity. What I did with the initial list of people who signed up, I signed each of them about between 20 and 25 calls each. And as best I could, I tried to keep it within their time zone. Certainly, I tried to keep it in their state, but as you all know, that can be difficult. There might not be that many people from your state who ask for planning guides, or there might be a lot of you in one state. In certain cases like that, Illinois, we've got a bunch of CPRs, which is great, and Texas, there's a bunch. And then other states, there's nobody at all. So I'll do my best to try to keep it in that time frame, but they're the time zone. But everybody so far that has been on one of these training calls is either East Coast or at the most Central. There is nobody in Mountain or Pacific time, and we even have some people Alaska, and I haven't seen Hawaii yet, but I'm anticipating we'll have some Hawaii calls. So I might even take those myself, or we can figure those out. But
hey, Doug.
Yes, Amy.
There are just a couple questions that came through. James asks, if they do answer that their Compassion Sunday is scheduled for later in the year, do we order a kit now? And I'll just jump in on this. They should have ordered a Compassion Sunday planning guide, so they don't need to order a planning guide unless somehow they didn't get it. Then you do order it. But we would prefer that my cat, look at this is Milo, everybody. Yeah, hi Milo. Gosh, sorry. Trying to be professional here. And the thing is, we would like to know that it's registered, and the way we're saving children in packets and scheduling the packets, it just helps everybody on the field to know how many children and child packets will be needed. But if it's scheduled for later and they don't have a date, like if it's just sometime in the fall, then until there's a date, I don't think there's anything we can do. Would you agree with that assessment, Doug?
Yeah, we can't place an order for an actual event if there's not an event date. If it's going to be in the fall, it would still be good for us to maybe have that information if you can relay that to us, because what we will do is go into Salesforce to that church account and just put that in as an opportunity. We list those opportunities as things that it could happen, but it also might not. It might be an opportunity that's lost and it doesn't actually pan out. But we would put in there and have a record like, hey, this is kind of coming up, and that lets people in the field know, hey, looks like there's a number of events coming up, in that time frame. So that'd be great. But until we have an event, we can't place an actual order. Amy, you're on mute. Let's see. Yeah.
Oh, just the question. James says, what if the date has been set? Yeah. So James, I would just say, register online and get the date and everything set, even if it's October. I think just it helps Compassion plan ahead. And because we're trying to tighten the wait time of the children waiting to be sponsored, the more we have the dates in advance, the shorter time children have to wait. So great. Rick asks, if there is a special request, why don't we create an additional tab that could be immediately referenced by Rick? And I think he's meaning Rick Schloop.
Oh, right. I bet you would. Because Rick, you work with Rick. So yeah, again, on the form, on the Google Doc spreadsheet, you'll see, Compassion Sunday, immediate, action needed. So you can put that there, that yes. But I think it would be, I don't think you're going to be overwhelmed with a number of those. And on the spreadsheet, there's not a place to put all that contact information. Like I had here, the name of the supporter, an address to the church, all that kind of stuff. So that would probably even just be an email at this point. Might be the easiest way, fastest way. And you could just shoot that right into to either Rick or Matt or myself. Just make sure you get it to one of us. I think it's probably the best way. So that'd be good. And also kind of going back to Jim, your question about dates in the future. Yeah, if they have a date, we can go ahead and place the order. Just let them know that the actual child packets aren't going to be mailed usually until like if it's the Tuesday before the Sunday of the event. So the packet should be arriving, Thursday or Friday, right before the Compassion Sunday. So even if you place an order now, all they would probably get are maybe their Compassion Sunday T-shirt and any additional supplies like just some Compassion Sunday info sheets, that kind of thing. Just keep that in mind. Keep typing any questions that you have, or jump off mute and interrupt. Definitely want to make this interactive with you all and answer any questions you have. A couple questions and issues did come up from this first batch. One is, I never received my planning guide. So again, you can let us know that on that form on the Google Doc online. That's live. Anybody can access it and see it. So if you put notes in there, I'm going to see it. And just put that on there, yes, action is needed, and say, please send the planning folder. They never received it. And we'll look them up and make sure that gets sent. One question did come in of somebody saying, I don't know if they were just feeling pressured by this or what, but they said, hey, we can't do it, and take me off the list for further calls or emails about this. If that does happen, if you feel like you're reaching somebody and they're on the defensive and they're like treating you like a telemarketer, my heart would be just, tell them to understand that you understand, and that you won't receive, or they're not going to receive any further calls about this Compassion Sunday. And also can just convey that, hey, we're not trying to put pressure on you, just simply help with what it seemed that you intended to do by hosting a Compassion Sunday. You ordered the planning guide. We were just here to say, how can we help? And we really appreciate your heart to do that. And then just let them know that email preferences are something really that they need to do. You cannot get into the system and change their email preferences for them. But if they want to change those at all, they'd have to log into their account at Compassion and just thank them. If there are any other issues or concerns, I haven't heard anything else yet, but just bring that up to my attention, and we'll get the follow up. One last thing to go over logistics. I went to the Compassion Sunday site, and to give you an idea of the order form, it's a very simple step. It's just one of two. So this is what it looks like if you go and you click register your event. All it asks for is, I'm going to host my Compassion on. You have to have a date there, and first name, last name, phone, email, address. That's really it. It has a picture of kind of what you're going to get in the event kit, posters, tabletop display, info sheets, sign-up forms for potential sponsors. I think there's some more I cut off that just wasn't in this screenshot. But that's the step one. Once you click over, step two, pastor approval. You have to have that checked. I have received my pastor's approval to host this event. We don't want to send it out to people and they're like, oh, I never actually had permission to do it. I just wanted to do it on the state. So we don't want to send out child packets and kind of pull them out of the child packet pool if an event isn't going to take place. So that's we do need to check that pastor has approved of this. And then beyond that is just the name of the church and address of the church, the audience size, so we will know how many child packs to send, and then where do you want the material shipped, to the home or to another address, and the size of the t-shirt. That's it. So very simple process. Again, something you could do over the phone with them. It's not a long process at all, just those two pages, and most of it was just their contact information and the church's contact information. So yeah, that's it with what the order form looks like online, and that's it. What the next steps that I will take here after this is I will send you all this document, so you actually have this on your own. You can reference it, especially the talking points that Amy has put together there, and you can have that in front of you. So you get a copy of that, and then I will also send you the link to the Google document spreadsheet where that's uploaded online, so you can all access that. And I will create, when I send you that link, I'll go ahead and edit it first to have your own tab along the bottom, and then you'll just be able to click over to your name and see the list of callers that I've assigned to you. One thing I'm going to let you know, and I'll probably convey this in the email just as a reminder, and I'll send it out to the other group that has already been making these calls, has already been on the training call, is that the very first tab with nobody's name on it, I'll probably name it, you're free to take it or something like that, are calls, again, that I did not assign because I didn't want to overload and just assume that everybody could do 50 calls or something like that. I started with 20 to 25. But if you can take on more and you want to grab some of those, you are free to do that. And right now, we have a bunch that are like in California. Again, that was out of everybody's time zone, so I did not assign California. And if you want to make some of those calls, you're free at any point to grab those and make sure they're, not just copy and paste them, but cut out of that first tab and paste them into yours so that nobody else sees them still in that first tab, and also makes those calls to those people, if that makes sense. If you have any questions about that as you start looking at it, let me know. But I think that's it for my perspective as far as logistics go. On what the spreadsheet is fairly simple, and again, we'll add email addresses if we can. But yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. Are there any questions you have on logistics or how this is run? When did the person from the earlier training group have the best success with contacts? Jim, good question. And I do believe the feedback we had really quick was Janice. She made her calls really pretty quick. And I think it was the evening, the very next night, she made the call. And so what I will do is I'll try to ask her specifically, because she was the one who gave us some very quick feedback saying, hey, I really enjoyed making these calls, had a lot of great conversations. And there was, Amy, I think wasn't there a specific story that she shared with somebody? Now I'm trying to remember what it was. But it was really encouraging that it was somebody who was very excited about having their Compassion Sunday and having some help with it. But anyway, I'll ask her when she actually made those calls and try to include that and let you all know, and continue to share data among all of you who are making these calls, so we can learn from one another.
Yeah.
So.
I see here Janice's comments of, one individual, he in Tallahassee, he loves the Lord and loves compassion. He's military, just moved to Tallahassee, and he wanted a church recommendation. I mean, that was such a great thing about, something we could do for them that really has nothing to do with compassion, but everything to do with compassion, because we are about the local church. And then she also said she talked to a woman whose church is in between pastors. So she just needs help coordinating, but she's just waiting to get it scheduled. And so she's going to try to find a CPR in Florida to make contact with her. So yeah, I think when you get a hold of someone, they're really grateful to be connected.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, it was neat to see. Recommending, do you guys know of churches that are really active with you? And that might be a church that is a good fit for me and things. That was neat.
Yeah.
Neat to see. So,
yeah.
The last piece of advice that I would say and urge you all to do is just be prayerful about these calls. Encourage you to pray before you're going into a session of making these calls, or even a quick prayer before you make every single call. And if you're comfortable and you feel the other person is comfortable with it, if you're in a conversation and you feel like led to pray with them over the phone or for them and for their event and what they're trying to do that. That's great. We really want to be the body of Christ here. One thing I think Dion asked last time was, if they are having a hard time or kind of nervous about approaching their pastor, or they're not exactly sure, can we offer to be on a conference call with them and join that meeting with their pastor to answer any questions that the pastor has? And absolutely, use this as all the resources and tools available to you as a CPR you can bring to this. And that's one of the things to do, is if you want to, offer to help them, if that's what the obstacle is at that point for them, is trying to get their pastor involved and he's got questions and they don't know how to answer the questions. Hey, I'll jump on a call with your pastor and you and things like that. Yeah, just keep this in prayer. That's my main thing. And my prayer for you all is that this is something that really does bring joy and life to you. It's not a drudgery or anything like that. But we're just really praying that this does make a difference. And we see additional Compassion Sundays lined up and children sponsored as a result. So thank you also and appreciate what you're doing. I think that's it. I haven't seen any more questions come in, and we're almost, we're pushing an hour here about, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. The one last question that did come in is, does Compassion only offer these events within the USA? Compassion Sundays, these are only going to be within the US. Correct. Any phone calls would be in one of the 50 states. Other partner countries like Canada, Australia, they run their own Compassion Sunday campaigns or Compassion Sunday like campaigns. I don't know if they call it Compassion Sunday or it's something marketed differently in different countries, but for our focus, it'll be just here in the US. So, yeah, again, appreciate it. Thank you all. Have a great night and get some good rest, especially on the East Coast folks who are at 10 o'clock now. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
take care, everybody.
Good night.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thanks.